Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Veterinary Studies YouTube channel. I am Mohammad Azhar Meeman. This is a series of lectures on veterinary anatomy. In last lecture, I discussed about scapula bone descriptively and on 3D model. Our next bone is humerus bone. So today I am going to discuss about humerus bone. Let's start. So humerus. As I have discussed in my last lectures, in skeleton, humerus is a second bone of a forelimb. Humerus is a long bone and it has a central function in the movement of a forelimb or thoracic limb. It extends proximally from the shoulder joint to the elbow joint distally. If you see the direction of a humerus bone, it is directed obliquely distally and caudally, forming an angle of about 55 degrees with the horizontal plane. This is a more clear view of a shoulder joint and position of a humerus bone. If you see the direction of a scapula and humerus bone, they are directed obliquely. Scapula bone is directed obliquely distally and cranially, whereas humerus bone is directed distally and caudally. This slide also shows that the head of the humerus bone unite with the glenoid cavity to form a shoulder joint. Humerus bone consists of a shaft, which is the body of the humerus bone, and it is also known as the diaphysis. Four surfaces: lateral, medial, cranial, and caudal surfaces, and two extremities, which are the ends of a humerus bone. These ends are also known as the epiphysis. This slide shows the position of a humerus in different animals. This is the position of a humerus bone in cattle, in horse, camel, sheep, goat, chicken, and human. These are the humerus of a different animals. This is the humerus of a cattle, horse, camel, sheep, goat, chicken, and human. Now, shaft of a humerus. As we know that long bone consists of three parts: two epiphyses, which are the ends of a long bone, and one middle part, which is a diaphysis. So, the shaft of a humerus is the middle part of a bone. It is a irregularly cylindrical and has a twisted appearance. This twisting appearance on the body of the humerus form a musculo-spiral groove. This musculo-spiral groove is so called because it is the site from where brachial muscle and radial nerve passes. This is the humerus bone. This is the cranial surface. This is the lateral surface. This is a medial surface. Behind the cranial surface, there is a caudal surface. So, at the craniolateral aspect of the shaft of the humerus bone, there is a large round prominence called deltoid tuberosity. This tuberosity extends distally, form a crest of a humerus, and deltoid tuberosity is the site of attachment of a deltoid muscle. Now, surfaces. As I have discussed earlier, there are four surfaces on a humerus bone. This is a lateral surface, medial surface, caudal surface, and cranial surface. This is a proximal end, and this one is a distal end. These surfaces contain certain prominence, bony protuberance, and grooves, which are the model for the attachment of strong muscles and tendons. First of all, lateral surface. This is a lateral surface of a humerus bone. Lateral surface is a smooth, spirally curved, forming a musculo-spiral groove. Musculo-spiral groove continuous with the posterior surface proximally and winds around toward the anterior distally. Musculospiral groove is the site from where a brachial muscle and radial nerve passes. This is a musculospiral groove of a humerus bone. Medial surface. This is the medial surface of a humerus bone, which is nearly straight in its length, round from side to side, and blend with the anterior and posterior surfaces. At the medial surface, there is a tuberosity called teres tuberosity, which is above to the middle part of the humerus bone. Cranial surface or anterior surface. If you see the cranial surface, it is triangular in shape. This surface is separated from the lateral surface by a distinct border called crest of a humerus. Crest of a humerus is the extension of a deltoid tuberosity. Above to the crest of a humerus, there is a large round prominence called deltoid tuberosity. This is a deltoid tuberosity, which is the site of attachment of a deltoid muscle. From the neck, there is a curved line which bears a well-marked tubercle or tuberosity. Here is a tubercle or tuberosity, which is known as a teres tuberosity or teres tubercle. Below the deltoid tuberosity, the border inclined forward becomes less prominent and end at a coronoid fossa. This is a coronoid fossa. Caudal surface or posterior surface. Caudal surface is a round or circular in shape from side to side, and it is smooth. Caudal surface also bears a nutrient foramen at the distal third part of the surface, which is not clear in this picture. Extremities of humerus. There are two extremities on a humerus bone, proximal extremity and distal extremity. Proximal extremity consists of head, neck, two tubercle, greater and lesser tubercle, and intertuberal or bicipital groove. These tubercle are the site of insertion of an infraspinous and supraspinous muscle of a scapula. Distal extremity of a humerus bone consists of two articular condyle, medial condyle and lateral condyle, and two non-articular epicondyle, medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle. Proximal extremity. Head. Head is the circular convex articular surface which is about twice larger as the glenoid cavity. Second one is neck. Neck is the part of a humerus bone which separate humeral head from the shaft of the bone. Now, tubercles. There are two tubercles on a humerus bone, greater tubercle and lesser tubercle. Greater tubercle is also known as a lateral tubercle because it is at the lateral side. It is a large which rise about 3 cm above to the head of the humerus. Greater tubercle also form a point of a shoulder. This is a point of a shoulder which is formed by a greater tubercle. Greater tubercle is placed craniolaterally. Low to the greater tubercle, there is a circular rough area which is the site of insertion of an infraspinous muscle. Lesser tubercle. Lesser tubercle is also known as a medial tubercle because it is at the medial side. It has a small projection which curves over the intertuberal groove. Lesser tubercle lays craniomedially, and these both tubercles are separated by a bicipital groove which is situated cranially. Bicipital groove. Bicipital groove is also known as a intertuberal groove, and it is the site of origin of a bicep muscle of a forearm. This is a bicipital groove. Now, distal extremity. Distal extremity of a humerus bone has an oblique surface, and it consists of two articulated condyle and two non-articulated epicondyle. Condyles are the articular part of the distal extremity of a humerus bone, which articulate with the radius ulna bone to form an elbow joint. Now, there are two condyles, medial and lateral condyle. Medial condyle. This is a medial condyle. It is a much larger and it is crossed by a sagittal groove or sagittal ridge. At the anterior part or anterior surface of a humerus bone, there is a depression called coronoid fossa. Posteriorly, the groove extends backward and upward to form a depression called olecranon fossa. Olecranon fossa is the part for the articulation with the semilunar notch of the ulna bone. This is the semilunar notch of the ulna bone which articulate at the olecranon fossa. Lateral condyle. This is a lateral condyle. It is a much smaller and it is somewhat placed lower and further back, give the extremity an oblique appearance. And it is marked by a wide shallow groove. Now, epicondyles. At the both sides of a condyle, there are thick protuberance or ridges called epicondyle. It gives the origin to the musculature of the distal part of the forelimb. It also the site of the attachment of a collateral ligament of the elbow joint. Epicondyle are separated by a olecranon fossa. Now, medial epicondyle. This is a medial epicondyle which is more clear than the lateral epicondyle, and it bears a tubercle for the attachment of a medial ligament of the elbow joint. Lateral epicondyle. Lateral epicondyle bears a condyloid crest which form here the outer boundary for the musculospiral groove. Between the epicondyle there is a deep olecranon fossa into which enconial process of the ulna projects. This is the enconial process of a ulna bone. This is the semilunar notch of the ulna, and this is the enconial process of a ulna bone which projects in the olecranon fossa. So this is the picture of a shoulder joint. This is the scapula bone which we have discussed in our last lecture. This is a humerus bone, and all the parts of a humerus bone are denoted by a number. This is the head of the humerus. This is a greater tubercle. This one is a lesser tubercle. Between these tubercle there is an intertuberal groove or bicipital groove. This is a neck of the humerus. This is the surface of a origin of infraspinous muscle. This is a deltoid tuberosity. These are the condyles. This is the epicondyle, and at the posterior surface there is a depression called olecranon fossa. This is another picture of a humerus bone. This is a lateral view and this one is a cranial view. This is the proximal extremity and this one is a distal extremity. This is the shaft of a humerus bone. In proximal extremity there is a head, greater tubercle or lateral tubercle, lesser tubercle or medial tubercle, intertuberal groove, neck, and at the distal extremity there is a condyle, medial and lateral condyle, medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle. At the cranial surface there is a depression called coronoid fossa, and at the posterior surface there is a depression called olecranon fossa. At the shaft of the humerus bone, at the lateral surface of the humerus bone there is a deltoid tuberosity, and at the medial side there is a tuberosity called teres tuberosity. This is a musculospiral groove, and this is the condyloid crest. This is another picture of a humerus bone. This is a caudal view and this is a cranial view. This is the head of the humerus. This is the greater tubercle, and This is the deltoid tuberosity. This one is the teres tuberosity. Shaft of the humerus, olecranian fossa, lateral epicondyle, medial epicondyle. These are the condyles, lateral epicondyle and medial epicondyle. This is the musculospiral groove. This is the humeral crest. This is the teres tuberosity. This one is the deltoid tuberosity. These are the bicipital grooves. This one is the lesser tubercle and this one is the greater tubercle. This is all about today's lecture. If you like this lecture, press like button and don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel. If you have any query, please comment below. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.